What's going on, Spitfires? Welcome back to another episode of the Spitfire Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Lemunion, the Spitfire Coach, and I have an honest unveiling. I have lessons learned from a coaching session, and I hopefully have some learning moments to share with you. It has been a bit since I've recorded a podcast, and honestly, I have not felt inspired. I have usually been able to just kind of crank things out and get my ideas in the podcast and write blogs and videos and things like that. And I had a big burst of energy last month, at the beginning of the month, and then just felt this drain. And I realized, okay, this is sprunging around. I had family. I was working in between multiple locations. I had a new client come on board, had family around, and I was spent. And, you know, what typically happens when I get tired is I get on the couch and I don't want to move. And I watch a lot of reality TV. My newest favorite is Escape to the Chateau, which is, I think, the most inspiring binge-worthy series out there. It's on Peacock. And I think it started as like a BBC thing, but it's this amazing couple that buy a French chateau. It's 45 rooms and 5 stories. And he's this like burly former military engineer, and she's this artsy like pinup style woman. And together they just like have these crazy antics and renovate these rooms and have these magical experiences. And of course, we're not seeing the behind the scenes and the stress of things going wrong, but you can just see their creative energy flowing and the family support and all these like really beautiful moments. And it inspired me to get creative. And in between creativity, I still was going to the couch. And while I was watching the show, I was like, what else could I be doing? Like, the temperatures are amazing outside. It's like in the 60s and 70s. And I was like in this inner judgment and turmoil of like, you should be more productive. Like, why aren't you outside? Why aren't you writing your next book? Why aren't you working on client projects? And I couldn't answer it. I just kind of sat in it and like didn't move. And I would get on my spin bike and I'd go for walks and I saw friends, and I was still feeling this like, ugh, ugh. Like, I don't know how to embody that feeling. And I was like, I know there's a lesson coming out of this. Like, I wasn't inspired to write. I haven't written in my journal in like 2-3 weeks, which is a long time for me. And I'm like, the answer is going to be on the other side of this. And so I woke up this morning and I did a bike ride and I went walking to get my coffee, which is usually like, I know it's going to be a great day if I can do those two things. And I just got off of a session. And my client, who is literally like the walking embodiment of me over this weekend and even the week before. And I started smiling as she's like explaining her situation. And I'm like, I know that I need to like explain this. And I just decided to be really honest with them and just said, me too. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. I totally hear you. This is like a universal feeling when there's so much change around you and you feel kind of excited, but also powerless because there's so much unknown and uncertainty. And so we end up having this like stress reaction, and we feel this need to push and to do more, but we don't necessarily have that creative motivation. And we're not getting those like same validation hits that we got before. Like, the game has changed. And she just said, thank you for being honest. And I realized like, this is what we need. We need that honesty injection, because there's so many people that are walking around with these big ass smiles on their face when they're suffering, and judging themselves and pushing themselves, and they're trying to keep the good face. And it's like, yeah, we need some positivity, but it's got to be authentic. We can't be pushing this like hyper, manufactured positivity, because it's just not real. So I wanted to share this with you because I'm sure that people are like, well, Lauren, you do this professionally. I'm sure you're happy all the time. And I'm happy a lot of the time. I have a great life. I've built this amazing business. I have an amazing partner. Like, I'm moving. I've got family around. Like, I'm doing my art. And I get to do this podcast, and that's amazing. And also, shit gets really hard sometimes. Like, I've got these new amazing clients, and they are challenging me in new ways to up level my business. And it's freaking scary. And I also know, okay, this is new and I've got like change coming up. And how do I move forward? How do I embrace the fear? And also, I'm tired. Like, I'm going back and forth between Texas. I'm going down there this week. We're doing all these home renovations. It's going to become an Airbnb. So I have to think about my stuff and where it's going. And change is constantly happening, not to mention everything that's happening in the world and what's happening with my clients, which in these walls of Zoom, I get their energy thrown back on me. And so if I'm not doing a good job of processing that, of creating kind of those steps and release, I'm holding on to it. And that was actually what came out of this session, where it just kind of struck me of like, when was the last time you cried? Like, had a really good, ugly cry. And no, I'm not trying to emotionally manipulate my clients, but I could just sense the sadness in them. Like, you just need a release. And they talked a lot about the pressure. Like, there's so much pressure, pressure to perform, pressure to show up, pressure to go and do new things. And I'm like, where's your valve? Like, where can you just release some of it? And they were like, I just need to go hit something. Like, I just need to go to a boxing class. And I'm like, hell yeah, you do. Go hit something. And for me, it was getting on a bike and like sweating my face off this morning. And it was just this amazing release. And so if your body is not crying, like if you're not sweating out your frustration or the emotion, you got to figure out another way to do it. So it's not just about like sitting and meditating and finding the reasons or journaling it out or talking to somebody. It's like sometimes you just need that physical release, like getting out and just running hard or like having a primal scream. Like, we are allowed to do it. I don't care about manners. Like, sometimes you just got to get grimy with your emotions because it is literally sitting in our body. And the more that we push it down, the more that we're numbing ourselves, the more that we're like fading away that amazing creative energy that we all have in us that we can allow to be used and channeled in a way that can inspire other people. And so usually when I'm talking to clients, they're like, I just need to be of service to other people. I need to show up for them. And I'm like, but who's showing up for you? Who's making sure you're okay? Because you are creating that expectation that you're good, that this is your normal go mode. And it might be, but you have to leave space for these times of rest and recharge. It is so important because you are not fueling this machine. You are not a robot. And even robots need energy to go. So let's look at being a little more honest. You know what? I need to take some time for myself today. I'm going to get up and make time and prioritize my movement. You can give yourself 20 minutes. I don't care how busy you are. I mean, literally, I binged 5 seasons of a show. Like, I have the time. Okay. So, this whole I can't figure out when I'm going to do it is a total myth for me. Now, I'm not a parent. So, I obviously have more time than a lot of parents. But if you can find 20 minutes, how do you maximize that to like check in with yourself, to ask yourself what it is that you need in that moment? Because if you're not doing it, no one can read your mind. No one can tell you this is what you need to do. So, this is the thing. It is not about fixing yourself. It is not about, okay, I know this and everything has gotten better. I'm magically cured. This is a new awareness that you need to check in with yourself on an everyday basis. When you notice something, you need to do something about it because it will fester. It festered in me over the last couple of weeks. I allowed my journaling practice to fall off. My movement fell off. I wasn't emotionally taking care of myself. And so if that starts to slip, you need to have the awareness of, okay, how do I have an honest conversation with myself? How do I acknowledge what's happening and ask myself what I need and honor it? This is how you move forward through change, through scary stuff, through new stuff. You can't expect yourself to be a superhero in every situation. You got to fuel it up. So starts with being honest, starts with being aware and following through. Because if you're not keeping your word with yourself, you're not showing up authentically for other people. I don't care how much of a people person or helper you are, or team member you are, or team player you are. If you are allowing yourself to suffer for the results of other people, it's dishonest. It's a lie and it's harmful. So first, I don't care if you think it's selfish, you've got to start with yourself. It's about investing back in you so that you can be of service to other people. And it starts with micro decisions every day. You don't need to do big grand gestures, but you've got to be consistent about taking care of yourself. So go out, be honest warriors for positive change, and make it happen because you want it to happen, because you want to build this bigger legacy, not because you think it's something you should do or have to do. Come from a place of wanting to do it for you. Think about the example you're setting for other people around you and the future people who are going to interact with you and be like, wow, I want to have what she's having. It's like when Harry met Sally, but it's you just being honest with yourself, not even like the self-care. It's literally you having an honest relationship with yourself. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you have an amazing week and get amazing things done and give yourself a big pat on the back, a big hug. It's amazing. And y'all keep being awesome.